All right, welcome into another edition of Catching Up with Tommy Mack here on 1010XL's podcast platform, 1010XL.com, the 1010XL app. We are live on Facebook. We are filming inside the 1010XL podcast studios. We'll put it on YouTube. We'll put it all over social media, wherever you watch and listen to my podcast and all the great podcasts out of 1010XL. You will find it there. We appreciate all the love and support. Brought to you by my good friends, Team Tommy Mack. I got J-Dog Junk Removal and hauling on today. I love the swag that I get. I get some incredible swag, and I got more swag coming because I keep asking for it from each and every member. But you can catch them at TommyMack.net. Of course, J-Dog, veteran-owned and operated. They'll take your so-called junk, just whatever you don't want anymore or need anymore. They'll refurbish it. They'll give it to veteran families in need. Check them out, jdog.com. They're not only just here in Jacksonville, but up and down the East Coast. And if you're looking for a franchise opportunity, they have one for you as well. I'll talk about the rest a little bit later on. Of course, we're going to cover our Jags today. A couple things to get into. I'll tell you one thing that we are going to get into is because we've been talking about pressures a lot. So I wanted to do a little research because Fat Tony and I earlier this week on Jaguars Today, which I'll join him again at 10 o'clock this morning. We talked about pressures to hits to sacks, and it was like 3-1 and then 2-1. It was really interesting, at least with a couple guys we looked at. But then I looked up today, and I went through it. It was from PFF, and it was all about how many pressures. Now, their pressures are different than what we're thinking, and we'll get into that. I want to introduce, of course, my man Grammage. We're going to get into some Jaguar talk. I'll tell you where the Jags are in that. I want to talk about Caleb Williams a little bit. Post-June 1 cuts. Our safety position. Who we get? Wingard made another big play the other day. This guy makes plays. How are you going to figure this thing out is going to be interesting. And then, of course, we'll talk OTA as they get back on the field on Monday and the media can watch it. Before we get into all of it, let's say hi to Grammage. Grammage, how you doing, my friend? Good morning. Happy Friday.
Happy Friday, baby.
Yeah.
It's
busy week.
Busy week for you, man, especially. You've been
around a lot 10-10 this week.
Are you setting up camp, behind the building?
Sleeping in my car.
Yeah.
I got someone bringing me coffee, though, so it's good. I just wake up, the coffee's there. And
look at that.
Yeah, good stuff.
Because you got a nice little hike over from your neck of the woods at the beach. But
yeah, depending on traffic, not too bad.
Dude, my new commute, because I just moved, as you know, I'm not quite at the beach, but I'm closer to the beach now.
Yeah.
Dude, I'm not used to 10, 15 minutes extra of the commute, man.
No,
I'm like,
absolutely.
damn.
yeah, for sure. I actually, this morning, I don't know why, I put it in the Sport Plus just to kind of see what's up with my car, and I never do it. And there was a car next to me. I thought maybe they wanted to, I'm not a racer, but, on occasion I'll just, and by the way, I don't race. I race, but I don't try to win. I just try to show like, man, I'm hanging with you, no problem, and I'm barely even trying. That's how my thought process is. But man, the Sport Plus on my Acura TLX, woo, that thing gets off the line pretty dang quick. But nonetheless, be careful out there. No street racing. Too many people get in trouble. I don't really like that. I like going fast, don't get me wrong. And I don't mind racing for a little bit, but if it gets to be too high of a miles per hour, I'll back off, I don't know. It's funny, my 16-year-old's like, Dad, how do you know they want to race? I'm like, you just do.
Just a feeling.
Yeah, they just pull up next to you. All right, let's get into this pressures and QB hits. Now, pressures for PFF, it was Pro Football Focus. Is that right? No, it's a Pro Football Reference. I'm sorry, I had the wrong one. Pro Football Reference. Their pressures were hurries plus knockdowns, right? So a hurry would be a hurry the throw because you're just pressuring in his face. He's got to throw the ball before he wants to, right? Knockdowns we know those are QB hits, so those are the same. So a pressure like my edge rusher, comes off the edge, he steps up, breaks outside, and completes a pass. That's not a pressure in this situation. Does that make sense? So I like that as far as that's concerned, because you and I are like, pressures, they do mean something. And here's the thing, and this was a different platform that Tony got these from. We were looking at Josh Hines-Allen just last year and the year before. When he had and I don't remember the exact numbers, but when he had 17 and a half sacks, he had 90 pressures and like 35 QB hits or 33 QB hits. It was almost like a 3-to-1 and then a 2-to-1 ratio. And then last year, he was at 63 pressures, and his sacks were at 8, and I think his hits were 19. That's what they were. 63. So there is another 3-to-1 there, but then it wasn't quite 2-to-1. He should have had more sacks. But it doesn't always tell the story. Because, like, for instance, I was looking at, I've got a list of guys, and then we'll look at how they had Trayvon and Josh Hines-Allen and the rest. When I tell you about the interior of our D-line last year, at least from this database, they barely pressured the QB. I mean, all year. Oh, yeah, I'm going to save that for a little bit later on. All right, so in the news, of course, is Trey Hendrickson. He wants $35 million a year. They're offering 28. I mean, how do they offer him 28? We pay Josh Hines-Allen 31. You know what I mean? If you're like Trey, you're like, listen, man, I backed up my 17 and a half with another 17 and a half. You know what I mean? I didn't drop to 8. Right. I'm still at 17 and a half. So, why are you paying me less than that? So that's going to be interesting. Now I know Joe Burrow and I know Jamar Chase. They're like publicly pining for him. Like, pay the guy, find a way, make it happen. He's that good, man. He's that good. And I don't know. I know it probably would ruffle some feathers around here, but you add him to our D-line, and even in a rotational aspect, maybe a 2-year deal, I'm telling you, you got a good chance of going to the Super Bowl with that kind of defense. Anyway, last year, Trey Hendrickson had 54 pressures and 17 and a half sacks. Okay? Pressures, again, are hurries and knockdowns. That's a lot. That's a lot of hurries and knockdowns, which is different to me from just an actual pressure, right? So he's making that quarterback throw early because of his presence, and he's knocking him down quite a bit at 54 and then 17 and a half. In 2023, excuse me, he had 35 pressures, but also had 17 and a half sacks. So the math isn't always, it's not going to be the same for everybody. Chris Jones, last year, 38 pressures, that's hurries and knockdowns, 5 sacks. Year before, he had 39, but 10 and a half sacks. So similar pressures, similar getting in the backfield and causing some problems, but not as many sacks. Now, granted, he's on the inside. It's a little bit different when you're on the inside compared to the outside. But it's in that, just that stat alone, like you think Chris Jones, how many sacks do you think Chris Jones had last year? You'd be like, at least 10. He didn't. He had 5 sacks. But the hurries and knockdowns were there. So I'm almost defending Josh in a way, but at the end of the day, he had 8 sacks last year. I mean, that's not nowhere near good enough when the year before, you were 4th in the league. And the year before, his pressures, by the way, I wrote them down. The year before, Josh had 46 pressures and 17 and a half sacks. That's wreaking havoc. If you're counting hurries and knockdowns. So I hope we're clear on what that means, right? Because I think there's a difference in what most people think pressures are. All right? But if it's hurries and knockdowns, I get it. That's a little succinct, if you know what I mean. It's more honed in to like, okay, I get that if that's the stat.
It's affecting the QB's throw as he makes it versus just having the QB get some extra cardio for the day. Yeah. No, right. Absolutely. Absolutely. Or he's not making the throw when you hurry him for the most part. Yeah. I shouldn't say it's probably not 100%, but I bet you it's 90. You know what I mean? You're hitting the arm. You're, in his way. He's got to throw it quick because you're a free blitzer, whatever. The mobility of quarterbacks is what has changed this stat and how it looks so much. Because I think, there was probably a time for the majority of the history of the NFL and football where if you did have a traditional hurry that, a lot of places may call a hurry, it was genuinely effective. Yep. But nowadays, I mean, how often Patrick Mahomes probably makes as many throws on the run scrambling
a lot of QBs
as he does from the pocket.
Yeah.
Lamar Jackson, like a lot of these guys are just as successful, if not more, when they're breaking out of the pocket versus making plays from within the pocket.
That's why the knockdowns, the QB hits matter. That's why they matter. If those are high, you're getting back there pretty good.
How am I actually impacting the throw that is made?
Yeah.
As opposed to simply causing him to scramble.
Yeah. No, absolutely. Absolutely. Let's see, other name. Nick Bonito. Was he a rookie last year? I think he was, or second year?
Yeah, I think so. I think it was
36 pressures, 13.5 sacks. Now, that's coming from the outside, so he's got a little help on the inside with Jones. If Jones is getting 39 pressures or 38, he's getting back there. Max Crosby, I thought would be higher, at least last year, 7.5 sacks. I know he had an injury. He missed a couple of games, didn't he?
I think so, yeah.
I think he did, and he had 35 pressures. Year before, 50 pressures and 14.5 sacks. That's getting after it. That's getting after it. Leonard Williams last year from inside out in Seattle. 30 pressures, knockdowns and hurries, and 11 sacks. That's getting after it now. Big time. Zach Allen, who's a defensive tackle for the Broncos, 8.5 sacks on 47 pressures. Pretty good for an interior defensive tackle. But again, my point is, like, there's not an absolute science, although when I see an outlet like this, Pro Football Reference, saying that, okay, pressures are knockdowns, that makes more sense to me than just pressuring the QB. Let me throw this at you, Gramish. What about, like, knockdowns? You know, I don't get any pressure, I get a little, but I raise my hand, I knock the ball down. It's a good play, but how much value are we going to give that? Like that, compared to pressures, not these pressures with knockdowns, just pressures in the general sense, what most people think. Oh, I pressured the QB, I got him out of the pocket, I pressured him. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
How important, where's that stat fall? Because you could be like, I remember John Henderson had like 50 knockdowns in his career. That's affecting the game, right? It is.
Yeah.
You may not be beating your guy in front of you, to get enough pressure. You may get a little pressure and you just can't go any further. You just, jump up or put your arms up. I mean, but is that going to be a stat that people are going to be like, hey, look at him. He had 40 knockdowns, only 1 sack, and 9 pressures, but look at all the knockdowns he had. It affects the game.
To me, not as much.
Yeah. I'm being a little facetious, but
no, I get what you're saying though. It's just like, how often do you sit down and watch an NFL game, our Jaguars or otherwise, and when the game's over, you come away thinking like, man, knockdowns had a huge part in this game. Like, it's rare. It's almost never.
If you look at it from your quarterback's perspective, though, and he had 3 or 4 knockdowns, you're like, man, he had 3 or 4 knockdowns. Like, what's going on with the knockdowns?
Or maybe if he had like one in the first quarter and then that kind of messed with his head the rest of the game. Yeah, that's fair.
Yeah.
I don't know. I feel like
I think from an offensive standpoint, you do. From a defensive standpoint, like, whatever. You knocked the ball down. Great.
Because it's kind of it's
like a pass breakup. Good. You did your job. You knocked the ball down. They didn't catch the ball.
But a pass breakup to me seems a lot more purposeful. Yeah. A DB actually like got in position, made a play versus it. I'm not a defensive lineman, so I don't know. Yeah. But it seems like most of the time you're just throwing your hands up and hoping that he happens to hit your hand.
Oh yeah, you're not. Yeah, most of the time you're not timing it.
It's not like a shot blocker in basketball that's tracking down a shot, but you're just like John Henderson is just an enormous human being, and he gets so up high that if he gets one, especially 2 big paws up there, it's just the probability. But it's not like John Henderson was locating the ball midair. You know what I mean?
For him to throw
right. So it's sort of a lucky play in a sense. You're kind of making your own luck, but it's a little bit of a lucky play in a sense. So
yeah, I get that. Yeah, for sure. It does affect the game though.
100%.
It's another down, right? You get it. You take care of a down. All right, so let's look at our Jags. We'll look at Trayvon and Josh Hines-Allen. I mentioned Josh Hines-Allen already. Again, pressures here are hurries and knockdowns from Pro Football Reference. 2023, 46 pressures from Josh Hines-Allen. 17.5 sacks. That is a hell of a year. That is being a wrecking machine in the backfield, is what that tells me. Last year was a drop-off. 29 pressures, 17 less, and only 8 sacks, 9.5 sacks less. Now, you can say, you can make all this stuff up. But when I look at that, I'm sitting there going, okay, well, I kind of know why. Because when I tell you the defensive tackles and what they didn't do, some of them just unbelievable. But it was a down year for Josh Hines Allen. Now, for Trayvon Walker, pretty similar year. He had 29 pressures, 10.5 sacks last year. And 2023 he had 30 pressures and 10.5 sacks. Or no, 10 sacks. So about one out of 3. So he's progressing, right? Want to see him get those sack numbers up a little bit. Agba in 24, our newest defensive lineman via free agency, 19 pressures, 5 sacks. Now that's pretty good for the ratio, right? That's getting to the QB, getting your hands on him, and making sure he don't go nowhere.
Especially for that third pass rusher.
Absolutely, yeah.
Man, Tommy, I'm excited. We haven't talked enough about him. I'm excited about him, man.
I'm excited too. I'm excited about the D-line in general.
Yeah.
But you know the concern.
Of course.
We just got to see how it goes. We'll get into that in just a minute. That's a good one about Agba because I think he's a great pickup. All right. So, Eric Armstead was next on the list for the Jags. On the NFL, it was like in the hundreds ranking. That's when our guys started. After Josh Hines Allen and Trayvon, who are right around 29, 30, I think, or somewhere in that range, 25 to 30. The next, Eric was like in the hundreds, and he's the next one. 11 pressures, 2 sacks. Just the 11 pressures is just like, really? All year?
I don't think he missed any games.
I
think he played every game.
Eric Armstead only made him hurry or knocked him down 11 times.
If you didn't watch the Jaguars this past year, Tommy,
yeah,
and you saw those stats, you would think that week 5 he had a season-ending injury or something and missed
like
the
he
year.
Didn't even show, wasn't even available.
That's why he played every game. I'm pretty sure.
I believe he did too.
11. That's
Devin Lloyd's next. This is why you got to rush this kid. I'm telling you, 6 pressures, which they hardly rushed him, and 2 sacks. I would get him on the line. I've said this before. If I ever get a chance to say it to Campanile, I'm going to say, like, do you guys run that bat package? The bat for us was a guy named Joel Schmingy, who was a defensive end.
Joel Schmingy.
Yeah. Who was great pass rusher. He could really rush a pass. Really good defensive end. But they had this bat package where there would be 3 down linemen, 1 over the nose, shaded, sometimes at a 0, and then 2 ends. And he would do games with each one of them. He would do. They would always do this. He comes in and hits. Say you're on the nose. The nose is over the center. He would right before the snap line up. He's moving all around. Line up on the nose. Hit the center. Drive him. The nose tackle comes underneath, and then hopefully he gets free there. Or because they have to compensate, Joel would get free. It was very effective. He's on the line of scrimmage, and he's rushing the passer.
And there's a level of freedom Joel has to move around that's making it incredibly hard for the offensive line to actually prepare for where he's going to be. Correct?
Correct.
Yeah.
Correct. By the way, I never hit go live on Facebook, so I guess we're not going live on Facebook. I've been here too many days, man. No, go live now. Forget it. It's over. Forget it. No, get out of here. Nonetheless. Yeah, so I think Devin Lloyd, on top of being a run defender, I think that's his natural position.
Yeah.
And you don't have to put him on the edge. You put him over the guard. He's really, what's good about him is the way he's built, being long, tall, and his arms are long. Like, he can sneak through. Arden Key used to be really good at that. Arden Key could, sneak through that gap really good, man. He was really long. And if he got through, you couldn't stop him. I think Devin Lloyd's good for that. But, all right, let me carry on. Mason Smith, who came on late, only 6 pressures, but 3 sacks. What do I want to see out of those numbers in the least amount of opportunity, especially with Devin? What does that make me want? I want more, right? Don't you want to see more? Like, those stats kind of like, wait a minute, okay, maybe they need more opportunity. Mason will get his. He's going to get it. I think Devin's got to get some, too.
If Mason had 6 pressures and 3 sacks, also understanding that he was a healthy scratch for a lot of early part in the season and it struggled to find the field until late. What if those 6 pressures were 12 pressures?
Right.
Or 15?
Right. Maybe he's got 8 sacks.
Now you may be looking at a 7-8 sack guy from the middle.
Right, which is huge.
Oh, by the way, Eric Armstead's going to play inside this year. Maybe he's also a 7-8 sack guy in the middle. And now all of a sudden,
you're preaching to the choir, man.
Now you're making now my edge guys that I've invested all this time, energy, money, and resources into
are back to the 46 and
correct.
17 area.
Correct. Now all of a sudden, there's no for these quarterbacks, even these mobile guys. There's no escaping Josh Allen. There's no escaping Trayvon Walker.
Right.
Because the inside of my pocket's caving in. I got nowhere to go. If I'm trying to go to the outside, both these two dudes can run.
Right.
I'm not gonna just. It's not gonna be. We all remember the play. Caleb Williams against Eric Armstead on the edge. Remember in London?
Yeah.
Caleb made the wrong read and still got like 10 yards because he just ran right by Arms because he's not an edge rusher.
He's not an edge.
Trayvon or Josh eat that play up.
Yeah, totally.
Right?
Totally. Absolutely. Absolutely. So then you got to throw in Agba, right? Throw in Lloyd. Now here's the negative. You look at Devon Hamilton. Played all year, right? Did he maybe miss the game too?
I'm not totally sure.
I thought he played all year. 5 pressures. 0 sacks. I mean, 5 pressures all year. And they don't stop the run. You know what I mean? Like last year's defense. They stunk on they were okay on third down. They got a little bit better. They start off good and progressively got to about 40%. They couldn't stop the run. Ledbetter had 2 sacks out of 4 pressures. Now, I remember one of the sacks was the one on Rodgers, right? The backflip one.
Yeah.
So that was an effort sack. So it's good. You got to give effort, but 4 pressures all year long. He played a lot. You know, that's why, look, and I don't mean to make it personal because it's really not, man. I don't wish any of these guys, any, Lacey included, any ill will. I hope they play a long time. But it's got to be better. And I know everyone's like, well, look at Hamilton. Like, oh, now he's healthy. Don't give me that. That's just excuses. Okay, the 1 year when he was sick, I get it. But then he comes back, and then he's playing. And if he can't play, he shouldn't be out there. But he is. He's cleared.
Devon, I believe, played every game.
Every game.
He has no stats for the Bills game.
Yeah.
So maybe he didn't play that game, or maybe they just lost by 100. So
that's why when I see, like, who's going to, yesterday on Crosstalk, I love LB, Lauren Brooks. She's like, yeah, who's going to be the guys? Is it going to be, Mason Smith and Eric? Is it going to be Mason Smith and D. Ham? And I'm just like, man, have we not just – we know what we get out of Hamilton. I'm not saying get rid of him, but I don't know.
We've
He's
talked
been
about
around
this before.
long enough. Like, how many years do we give somebody to where, like everyone wants to give Walker? And I hope it changes for Walker. Josh Hines-Allen smoked him on a sack during OTAs. Granted, they're not in pads, and maybe he wasn't ready. I don't know, but it was a sweet move by Josh Hines-Allen.
Yeah,
and he got knocked his hands down, went right underneath him, and it would have been a kill shot to the quarterback. But that doesn't mean anything. But when you know of Walker Little's playing career, that's what happens in the worst times of the game. That kind of sack. Now, again, I'm not on a full 100% comparison. But you know what you get out. You know what you have out of Walker Little. Like how many? We're a very forgiving fan base, and like your fans, I get it. But man, like after a while, you're like, haven't you just seen enough? Like you know what you can't upgrade.
That's why we always have
upgrade. You can. You know you can. Why is average just like? No, it can't be average. It's got to be better than that. They got to be better than just okay. They got to be really good. They don't all have to be stars. I wasn't anywhere near that. I was just a grunt. But I was a good grunt. I came to work and I did my job, and it meant something to me every single time, And I wasn't a star, but I held my own. I was better than average,
But in terms of, I think, Tommy, in terms of roster depth, it all, how talented and the ceiling of your roster all depends on what are the expectations for these guys relative to what they should be.
Yeah.
So, like obviously, basketball's going on right now, so I'm thinking of it in a basketball analogy, but, like, there are guys in the NBA that if they are the best player on a team and they're scoring a super inefficient 30 points a night because they're the best player and they take 100 shots,
right,
that team's not going to be very good, right? But if that same player is the third best player that's giving you a really efficient 15 a night, well, now all of a sudden there's a team that could win a championship.
Yep.
It's the same thing with like
Strength of your bench.
And it's the same thing with like Devon Hamilton, for example. I think Devon Hamilton is a very good, solid player that belongs in the NFL. We've said that. Yep. He's not some scrub that should be playing for the he shouldn't be playing for the Sharks. Right? No disrespect.
No.
But if he is your starting, if he's one of your starting defensive tackles and you're expecting him to be a consistent game changer, then you're going to be disappointed.
Right.
Because that's just not who he is.
Right.
He's not Aaron Donald, man. He's not, you know what I mean? Like,
and we're not asking him to be that, but he's got to be more productive than he's been.
If he's going to be the starter.
Yeah,
but if he's going to give
time.
But if you get deeper on the interior of the defensive line, you would get deeper at this point by development because it doesn't look like they're going to add a huge piece.
No.
But between I'm thinking Eric Armstead, Mason Smith, and maybe Jordan Jefferson comes on, who knows?
Yep.
If you get deeper, and then Devon Hamilton can replace those Jeremiah Ledbetter minutes on the field.
Yeah.
Right? Then that's an upgrade.
Right.
Because he's better than Jeremiah.
If he's the floor, it's an upgrade.
100%. Yes.
Okay. I agree with that.
Yeah.
And we've always said that. I've always said it, like, out of those three guys, he's number one in my book. For sure. By far.
100%.
In my opinion.
So he's been a starter basically by default.
Yeah.
I don't want starters by default.
Well, isn't that Walker?
Yes, 100%.
Yeah.
100%.
Well, listen, there's going to be major competition all across the board,
to this
nothing's given. Nothing's given. I don't even think certain contracts matter. I really don't. Even newly extended. That doesn't mean they're going to get rid of you. Like, I don't expect them to get rid of Walker Little at all. I think Walker can play. I just don't want to count on him as my starting left tackle. I think you have to do things to help him. And I don't want that out of my left tackle. That when you have to help your left tackle with a chip from the back or leave a tight end in, he's just okay. He's an okay player. He's not a bad player. He's just not the very good kind where you could say, all right, maybe on occasion I got a chip because it's Myles Garrett or it's somebody like that. But for the majority of the time, I ain't got to worry about that guy. And he may win too. We know that. Our guy may lose on occasion, but for the majority of the time, he's not losing. He's not giving up those big plays, those big pressures even. Not even just sacks, just knockdowns, just in the quarterback's face, quarterback getting hit.
I'll just never forget, Tommy, that second week of the season here in Jacksonville against the Browns. I mean, I haven't seen a player eat another player's lunch like Myles Garrett ate Cam Robinson's lunch.
Yep.
And it was unreal. Like all game.
Yep.
Cam Robinson never had a prayer of blocking him.
Remember Chris Jones? He beat all five of them. He would line up over the center, the guard, the tackle, and he'd win every single time.
Didn't matter who it was, man.
That's just, we look, again, we'll see with the new crop of linemen that are in, right, that they have brought in. Maybe it changes, and I hope it does. I know this. After watching just one OTA, they're trying guys at different positions, I saw Makari at right tackle. I saw him at right guard. I saw Adoga at right tackle. I saw him at right guard. I saw Van Lanen at left tackle. I don't think the tackles are locked in. I really don't. I don't think those positions. I will make it. This will be my bold. I'm not really a bold prediction kind of guy, but I think Ezra's going to be my left guard. I really do. I think Ezra is. I thought he had a pretty good year last year. I thought he turned it on. I thought his demeanor changed. I think he's better than average. I think he could be a really good guard.
I think the staff likes him too.
Yeah, he's got a good attitude, man. He's got that streak in him. You just got to keep it consistent. But I think he's going to be our left guard, and I think Adoga has a chance to be one of the tackles. I do. I don't think anything's set in stone either anywhere.
What about Fred Johnson too?
Maybe Fred too. I think it's open. It's open in that regard,
especially on that left side. If Walker has a poor camp, I think we've talked about this 100 times, being too comfortable and everything, but last coaching staff was very status quo on that kind of thing. Yep. It was very much, okay, that's been your position, so unless something seismic happens, that's going to be your position.
No, right.
It ain't that way with this staff, man. To your point, they're trying new things, they're seeing new things, and if there's another lineup that doesn't include you that works better, you ain't going to be a starter, man.
No.
I don't care about this.
Shouldn't. And that's a good thing and a challenging thing when a new staff comes in. It's a good thing for the guys that haven't had a chance to show that they can start. They get a chance. Clean slate, brand new staff, and I get to show them what I can do. The challenging is the guys that they're incumbents, replacing them. You got to be, you want to be the best, you got to beat the best. You want to be the champ, you got to beat the champ, right?
Yeah.
They're not just going to hand it over to you either. It looks like they're handing center over, but they kind of have to because Morse retired and Hainsey. Sorry, I call him Hainsley. It's not Hainsley. It's Hainsey takes over. So that'll be interesting. I think the safety position is going to be very interesting when it all shakes out. And like I mentioned, look, I've given Andrew plenty of grief on this show, just as far as, I do think he talks a little bit too much for the kind of player that he is. Mostly, look, backups don't really talk. And maybe that's old school. I don't know. You didn't talk unless you started. You're either a starter, you're a player, you're a big-name guy. You're the one that should be talking. Not that nobody doesn't want to hear from me. I don't mean it like that. But at the same time, you need a guy like Andrew, the kind of player that Andrew is on your team. Like he does, he makes plays when he's called upon. I don't know if I want him to be my starter. Although I do think another team would look at him as a starter. Like if he was let go or traded or whatever. I don't think his contract means much to this staff at all. I don't think that's that's 2 years ago, right, that they extended him, or maybe before that. Yeah. I forget when it was.
And it's not like he's a quarterback where
it's not a massive amount of money.
You have to eat all this dead money for years.
No, right.
It's not Gabe Davis. If they let go of Gabe Davis, I promise you they're willing to let go of him.
No, right.
You know what I mean?
No, absolutely. But these other guys, they've got to, they're going to have to step up and show that they can, they can handle the load. Now look, Murray's here. There's no doubt. Savage, he looks good. I mean, he looks quick, fast, and all that. I don't know. I thought he was out of position too much last year. Missed some tackles at key moments. But I know that Campanile likes him from Green Bay, right? So maybe that, that is better. Of course, you got Ranshaw, the rookie. You've got Antonio Johnson, who, man, someone will pick him up if you let him go. He's got too much athletic ability. I know his production's not as great, although I'd love to see him blitz more. I think he's a really effective blitzer and has shown that when they've given him the opportunity. But I really like that kid. If they can get him to play smart, I think he can be a ball player. He's another one.
I agree.
Lane the third, the rookie out of Navy. Maybe put him on practice squad if you can hide him there. You got Andrew Wingard. You got Daniel Thomas, who's my special team. So is Andrew. So Wingard, he'll be special teams as well. You know what I mean? I mean, that's a lot of safeties. There's another guy, Silman Craig, who I guess he's a rookie, but he's fourth on the depth chart. So you got 8 for maybe 4 or 5.
It's a lot of quantity. I don't know where the quality, and I'm not trying to say it's poor quality.
No, I know.
I just don't totally know where it is right now.
Well, Murray's proven. He was pretty good safety, right?
Yeah, but it's not like they didn't sign Kyle Hamilton or Minka Fitzpatrick. Yeah,
I get it. Gosh, I just wish Antonio Johnson could turn it on. I think he's got the tools. But you know what? You may have to play it safe and have Wingard out there. If he's steady, might not be super duper star, but if he's steady, just keep your head up and eyes open when the big backs come through. I don't blame you for ducking, but
I think it's just because of the time of year and I'm watching a lot of hoops. But for another basketball analogy, there's a lot of guys that they call in the NBA like irrational confidence guys.
Yep.
Basically meaning like dudes that kind of sit on your bench for the most part and they kind of play their couple of minutes a night. But in a series, if you need it, they might be that guy that'll just randomly go off for 25 and keep you in a game.
Right.
That's Andrew Wingard to me.
Yeah.
Like, you might not hear much from him for 4 or 5 weeks.
Yeah.
But they may put him in for a game.
Yeah.
And he'll have an interception and a forced fumble and,
look, he's a smart player. He's got good instincts, and maybe he does deserve to be a starter. I just haven't seen it. All I'm saying is, like, it's like just one prat. You're like, here he is making another play. Like, the guy makes plays.
He's got a nose for the ball. He's got a nose
for the ball. Yeah, he does. So I'm sure they want Ranshaw to make a move and be their starter, the rookie, of course. Who wouldn't want that? Oh, but that's going to be an interesting position. We talked about the O-line. You hear this talk about trading Etienne Jr. I'm not doing that right now, unless the offer's too good, and I'm just ready. But I don't know. I'm not ready to pass the baton to anybody yet.
The only time
I'm not.
I saw those rumors too, Tommy. The only time I think you would get an offer that would be worth considering would be if like a contender that has a star running back, like that guy goes down with an injury or something and they're desperate,
right?
And they'll give you more, they'll overpay for it,
right?
Other than that, it's like, I got another year. I think in this system is going to really suit him. Just see what happens, man. You got you got basically a year tryout to see what happens next year in the offseason.
No, I agree with that 100%. And then same with Tank. Tank deserves. He looks good. I mean, he looks quick again. Explosive and quick. Obviously, Etienne not out there the other day, but Tank looks the part again. It's all about ball security with him and being able to pick up that blitz. Quick look around the National Football League, if we can. Stephon Diggs on a yacht in Miami. Stephon, remember the last time the boys were on the yacht in Miami? It was OBJ and the crew.
The Giants team,
and they got beat in the Super Bowl. I just stay out. I don't know. Go to practice. Go to Cape Cod. They got yachts. It's right there. Cape Cod's awesome in the summertime, for sure. Caleb Williams had to come out and defend a book written by Seth Wickersham. Let me tell you this about, I don't know Seth, but when I read that part of his book, and I didn't read the book, but I read what Caleb was responding to about watching film by himself. Like, every player that's worth their salt watches film by themselves. It's not a big, you actually get a ton out of it if you're really, truthful with the film. Like, if you should be your hardest critic, at quarterbacks especially. So for Caleb to want to go watch film by himself, you make it a story. That just shows me that you don't know what the hell you're talking about. Because everyone goes watch film by themselves. It's not a big deal. What do you think they do when they go home? There ain't no coach sitting next to them. May get on a Zoom if he has a question or something. Or in that. And they do watch film together. But for him to want to watch it on his own, I don't understand why that's the story. And I do understand. Because it's not. And why write a book anyway after 1 year? What was so great about Caleb Williams anyway? He was okay. I'm looking forward to seeing if he's going to be a player. Sacked a ton, hit a ton. Still, his touchdown interception ratio was good, like 20-6. Not bad for a rook, but worthy of a book. And then the dad saying he didn't want to be a Bear. Like, why even write that? You know what I'm saying? I don't know. Is that a story? That the old man was like, that's where quarterbacks go to die. Who cares what the dad says? Who cares?
I think it's a little bit of a story.
Do you really?
Yeah, I mean,
that's when the media bothers me. That's like that you don't have nothing else to talk about, so you're searching for something. You're like, let's get to the dad. Dad didn't like the Bears.
To be fair, Tommy,
too bad.
This is a podcast in Jacksonville, Florida, about the Jaguars, and we brought it up. So,
well, yeah, it's a story because I wanted to take a shot at Seth Wickersham for not knowing what the hell he's talking about when players watch film by themselves. And again, I don't know why you'd write a book after a year. Again, this whole generational crap, it's like ridiculous. Leave these kids alone.
This might be
Let them prove that they're good.
This might be for me, like a lot of people like to watch reality TV because it makes them feel better about themselves. This might be for me that hearing about someone not wanting to go to another franchise makes me feel good about ours.
About ours, yeah.
It's like, wait, someone didn't want to go to a team, and it's not the Jaguars. That feels nice.
I mean, listen, how could you not want to go to the Bears? They're one of the more storied organizations in all of football.
If you're a quarterback, I can understand it.
With Ben Johnson?
That's true. With Ben Johnson, for sure.
He wasn't there. He wasn't there.
But he wasn't going to Ben Johnson, yeah.
I don't know.
I agree with you on the watch film by yourself
thing. Good quarterbacks make everybody good.
And the watch film by yourself thing, especially, I mean, how many times on this show have you talked about how, dude, you don't have enough time in the building to not do stuff on your own?
You don't, for sure. For sure. All right, post-June 1 cuts real quick. Any of these guys would you go after? Tyreek Hill, Jair Alexander, or Jalen Ramsey? I'm not talking to you. My phone thought I was talking to it. What if Jalen could play free safety for you?
He talked about that early in his career about playing corner until he got older.
Played safety at Florida State a little bit, didn't he?
He did, and he was really good at it.
I think Tony Boselli, they could get on the same page about professionalism and coming here to win.
I think Jalen's older now too.
Yeah.
He's
I'd take him back in a heartbeat,
especially to play that position. We just went
through all the safeties. Let me tell you something. That guy jumps to the free safety. He's my starting free safety.
And we talked about what did we just talk about with Andrew Wingard? How like you need some guys on your team that'll talk a little bit and say like our fan base knows more than anybody. That's Jalen.
Yeah,
100%.
Yeah.
You get Jalen talk a little bit, give this team a little swag back. Ooh,
he backs it up.
Shoo, I would love that.
He backs it up. I think as a safety, he could be really, really good for this team.
And knowing like how important it is this year for like Trevor to have a great camp and all that.
Yeah.
And we've talked about too, like how much we'd like to see like maybe Liam get on a Trevor a little bit this training camp or whatever. What about Jalen getting a pick or something on Trevor and talking a little bit to him and getting Trevor going a little bit, like stuff like that.
Agreed.
You know, he and BTJ getting after it, competing in camp. Travis.
Look, I feel almost
that'd be fun.
With Jalen, I feel like with Hendrickson. I think if you added Jalen to this defense, you're closer to the Super Bowl.
100%. 100%.
All right, that's going to do it for us on a Friday, heading into Jaguars Today with Fat Tony and Dylan Denmark. Come and join us. Well, actually, I'm not live on Facebook, so you won't hear that. But we'll see you next time, and I'll catch you on Jaguars Today and next week as well. We'll be back on Tuesday. OTAs on Monday. I will definitely be out there, so I'll have stuff to report on and talk about. Hope you've enjoyed it as much as we like doing it. Thanks to Team Tommy Mac. Please check them out at TommyMac.net. They're always there for you when you need them, and I tag them on all my posts on Facebook and Instagram, and please go check out their handles. They'll take you right to their Facebook pages. And on TommyMac.net, click their logos and go right to their respective websites. So much thanks to all of them, and much thanks to all of you. Until next time, stay safe, stay cool, man. We'll see you right here on Catching Up with Tommy Mac. Peace.
Hey, Mia here, and thanks so much for watching 1010XL Jaguars. For even more coverage of the Big Cats, be sure to subscribe to 1010XL Jaguars.